Hey everyone, Chris here with Premier Appliance. Today we're going to be going over our GE countertop mixer, and I will be showing you guys how to make a pizza dough. I've recently moved down from New York, and before I was a salesman, I was a pizza chef. Now, coming from somebody who's used to using an industrial sized mixer that's bolted to the floor, this makes a great alternative for anyone that wants to use it for everyday use. Now, when making a pizza dough, you need 6 ingredients. You need flour, water, sugar, salt, olive oil, and yeast. Now, when making a pizza, I believe in using only the best ingredients, and that's why I'd like to thank our friends over at Arno Ranch for providing us with their high-quality infused olive oil. Now, over at Arno Ranch, their uniquely infused olive oils contain only natural ingredients, so you'll find no GMOs, no preservatives, and no artificial colors. And you'll also find it's enriched with polyphenols, which is very beneficial for your health. Now, to begin, we'll start by adding our salt and our sugar. Now, I have it already weighed out here, but you're going to want to use about 1 teaspoon of sugar and about 2 teaspoons of salt. Then we'll continue by adding our olive oil, and this olive oil is specifically blended with rosemary and garlic, so this is going to give it a great flavor in the crust. Next, you'll want to add your water. Now, I'm using about 2 cups of water, or I should say 1.5 cups. And then before you add the flour, you're going to want to add the yeast. And then I usually whisk it up a little bit, and that will help activate the yeast. Now that we've added our yeast, I like to give it just a quick little whisk just to help activate it and get it ready for the flour. So we'll add our attachment, our whisk attachment. Now, the profile makes it very simple. It's just one quick little snap on, and now it's ready to go. You lift it up, and you turn it to stir. Now I'll just give it about 10 seconds just to let that yeast start activating. Okay. Now we'll drop it back down. We're going to remove our whisk attachment. Now again, it's very easy. You just pull down and it releases. Now we'll add our flour. Now I'm using about 3 3/4 of a high gluten flour from King Arthur. You can also substitute regular all-purpose flour, but bread flour specifically will give you a nice crispy crust as opposed to a regular flour. Next, we're going to take the bread mixer attachment, snap her on there, raise it back up, and now you want to keep it on a low setting. You don't want the flour flying around, and you don't want to over knead the dough, otherwise it's going to make it too tough to work with. Now that it's mixing, we'll have to give it about 8 minutes for it to fully finish, and then you want your dough to sit just a few minutes in the bowl just to let it settle, and then you remove it. Now that the 8 minutes are up and the dough's settled a little bit, it's ready to come out of the bowl. So you want to drop down the release, take off your mixer, kind of work it out of the dough. Now you have a finished dough and it's ready to be taken out of the bowl. Now, as I've said before, this was enough to make 2 10 to 12 inch pies, so I'm only going to cut this in half and roll it into 2 dough balls. I don't have a scale, so I'm kind of just going to eyeball this. You want to cut your dough to your preferred size. Now you want to take your dough and you want to slowly roll it until it's in a perfect ball shape, making sure that there are no lines or crevices, and making sure it's a nice, even, smooth ball all the way throughout. Now you have a dough ball ready to go. When you get your dough ball into a nice, smooth, round shape like this, it is ready to be placed into a pan and settled for later use. So we'll take our second piece of dough and do the same exact thing. Again, you want to just roll it, not too tight, but just enough to make sure it's nice and smooth with no imperfections or wrinkles. And you want to make sure you really pinch and seal the top part to make sure it's a perfectly shaped dough ball. Now you have 2 pieces of dough ready to be used later on. You want to let your dough settle overnight usually to get a better rising crust out of it.
With over 100 years of combined experience, will you let ours improve yours? Premier Appliance, powered by Reliance.